Hello, dear America, dear China, dear America and China groups, and dear all the other countries groups. Our names have been used tactical ulterior from how nature as itself not criminal insidiousness, and nature discerns the difference. Nature communicates and shows us the difference between criminal insidiousness as nature. It's a system tactical ulterior than these, with suits and ties and counters and defenses of that. Oh, but that's the way the world is and stuff like that. When they use America's name and they see me, oh, America does it, everyone leaves out the coalition as collusions, not wanting to, but self-valued, because then they're going to defend their syntax, our functions. If we ask these people, like in other words, I put a link between Scott Ritter. We're lucky to have someone who's speaking just what it is. But in other words, if you ask Scott Ritter to follow mandated law, because Connecticut Interbranch has been switching names, for example, and they have roles with the child abusers, leaders of the kids, and they have roles with themselves and their kids. At the same time, with overt criminal enterprises, private ones in the news, and they're going to use Mao's name, they're going to use China's name, they're going to use America's name, they're going to use James Madison's name. They're blaming on our founders. Oh, the evidence says our founders had roles with slavery, and they don't put what our founders said. They had to counter extort the other founders had, and they had to hide their roles with making a revolution. Sustained already all employments, additionally from the breaching method, were a whole bunch of additional motivations and apparent and real things, but not the real cause worse of everything. A breaching method, singular. A hyper-archetypal criminal enterprise. We can make an anti-hyper-archetypal criminal enterprise act. We could stack means. We have to agree. If we agree that how suburbs were designed, tactically denatured for torture and slavery before America's founders were even born, for example, the world doesn't know this because right through our schools that have been left, even the homeschool and their kids and the thing, each age of correlation nature. This has roles with predicate acts, with facts at the youngest ages. Self-value or that person sensed and hurt. And what that caused and keeps goes with the breaching method, which is worse, but it seems less. Because what all that causes and keeps, it makes worse, right back to all locations for additional reasons. Right back to all locations /s for additional reasons besides those maintained by the breaching method. That put additional motivations with the sense and sensibilities of people, to use Jane Austen's phrase. Individually grouped and together before modern countries' names were used. A semi-ancient trap. Force, tricks, hurt, and persuade. There are proofs is more probable. Because when we come to it, there's other, what's hyper-evidential becomes apparent. And how to use the hyper-evidential. And this can be used to show all sides in criminal and civil cases, victims and victims advocates, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and the phenomena of how the country share themselves as fake integrity here, there, everywhere. Only uses of our names of our species bodies, like America, like China, as criminal insidious natures of uses of it. America never had wealth. It was always remote, even that too, remotely from the dual citizens, this, that. That's part of the reason why. That's part of the answer is why and how. Someone could pretend passions and emotions. And like about when the subjects like slavery. and be dishonest, where and how there are a whole bunch of revelations tied to it. The breaching method, you don't leave it out. See, that thing employed other things others themselves needed because it assigned all natural difference in the way it communicates for how everything is its body, its identity is a relationship to itself, and the only increasing value of that as as three values simultaneously with zero, where one identity of value slash value progression makes more of itself as the only identity that needs not external value. It is all external, internal. It is the way nature tells us to discern space, formally being a definition of space where it is everywhere, not juxtaposed with matter, juxtaposed with matter in the mixture. And everything is an only increasing identity of volume, but it is simultaneously positive or negative to itself. And where and how positive could be a criminal insidiousness nature of positive, therefore really a negative. For example, truth could be used as a lie. Also, in other words, it's a part of what nature shows. There are 5 distinct identities of simultaneous nature, sequence nature being one of them. The truth of what came first, before the smallest finite detail of each modern country's name, like America's Republic, before the smallest finite detail of America's Republic and American history, the significance of how the Republic had already become criminally foreign influenced, and the significance of how debates, if I say something like that, left out the significance of criminally foreign influence database relationships and the causes of them things that we know that aren't debatable. So the debatable that's not debatable, how they get away with it, is also part of the hyper-evidential. How the other species' bodies, like a giraffe, has black pupils and whites of eyes, but no exceptions. But at the same time, it's about the same thing. We have the same eyes. We have the same color eyes, black pupils, whites of eyes, and exceptions. Some have better teeth than others. I had beautiful teeth. I don't know. War came. The World Trade Center came. My name is Ethan Will. I was in the World Trade Center attack. In the Ninth Circuit Court, right next to the World Trade Center towers, right before it. People leading up to that from years since I was a kid were involved with people pretending they knew me behind my back, fake things in databases, as America's roles with all these other countries in the news, including China. And I don't know the extent of it, but I know they have probate judges, their extended family members, and the people involved with corners of buildings. They make fake exceptions of people knowing each other. They can't go back and be honest about it. See, but this breaching method was here before sophistication from semi-ancient times. It has collusions with predicate acts at each age of factory, each location. Self-valued at each age of correlation nature. And so where the topic of culture comes up, where the topic of economics is made and kept topics, where subject treatments are made. See, modern countries are made incapable of appreciating where and how simultaneously there is an identity that shares why and how the predicate act is valued to the law. For example, as means for correlation nature to discern a criminal insidiousness nature and or the nature of criminal foreign influences associated with problems, associated with uses of this how this breaching method tactically denatured the suburbs of America and had slavery and torture entrenched and extortion methods entrenched before America's founders were born in North America and South America. And that was sustained. See, the phenomenon of the Civil War having been fought to be against slavery, it was also supposed to be against what put the witch trials in place. Whoever made that up, it's about slavery. And the slavery was not the motivation of anyone natural. See, this knew that nature would demonstrate the existence of a breaching method, a hyper-archetypal criminal enterprise. China has a culture. I could just tell I know more than the people from the campuses just from using the having watched the Kung Fu theater growing up. And it's not a joke, let them speak about it. See suits and ties. In other words, stability. Former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, for example, and co-defendants of his, Thaddeus Grabowski, on Fox Connecticut News, right before, shortly before a 2006 district court case, he demonstrated roles with people with the names Mendez police forms families, and ones with the name Charlie Bowes. I never had a conversation with Charlie Bowes ever. They maybe took a picture of me. He's involved with people near the state capitol. On off Trinity College with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and various natures of courts differentially as the ones. And simultaneously with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and people with placements at different campuses, and roles with uses of the differences of the different campuses, where and how they're fabricating audio and video into databases, foreign and domestic. That's how they got away with such delusion so long regarding when they speak regarding black or white, and they leave out how the breaching method employed those natural differences and how nature communicates. It answers our questions. We have different eyes and we have the same color eyes, but we also have different color eyes. How do you explain that? Nature shows us. It's showing us its distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneous, but further also hyper-simultaneous relationship to itself, and how to discern it and figure out where and how evolution's fruits and means gifts come from nowhere. See, but there are proofs that a semi-ancient criminal enterprise, a transnational criminal enterprise, and or a national one, and or the equivalent syntax. It knew it was going to get caught. So it figured out it could force, hurt, trick, and persuade people to think and blame other things, others themselves, knowing they had to counter things like criminal insidiousness and things like criminal enterprises, and not knowing how to do it properly. And then it knew nature was going to demonstrate that too, with negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. But it's just, and this has relativity to where and how. Slavery came into it. It is more probable and it is more practical too. Where and how, even if it's wrong, it also maintains us with leverage to get through where the phenomena the phenomena in the way of short words to quickly get through the phenomenon of the breaching method. It is against everyone sickly distinctly. Everyone has self-valued roles with it. With your summaries of history and defenses of that, with like that's too, it has remote possession of that. So certain type of victim / hyper victim was measured and maintained, not using our actual means of correlation nature or ETH of factory nature. A young suburban kid who's not Native American automatically never wanted the breaching method on Native American, let alone that, and everyone sickly distinctly tortured, extorted, and enslaved. All natural differences, black pupils, whites of eyes, exception nature. Nature communicates other than, oh, but I'm an expert on communications. And then what's the nature of the, it's psychopath descriptions of emotions and of motivations with aggressions and or the calm ones, because it's getting over on the simultaneous, which is also valued three ways as the simultaneous / hyper-simultaneous. Yin yang. See, yin yang. The hyper-clear can only make more of itself relative to where and how black pupils, whites of eyes are also, everything has a purpose. So the other species bodies, we are not them, except for how they have the same quality aspects in nature, distinctly, but also non-distinctly. Like the giraffe, black pupils, whites of eyes. There's a shared consciousness. People who have had pets, like dogs, no, especially, they're intelligent. Sometimes you have a pet, you should notice. You should notice people. If you pay attention, you'll notice more. But even with the bugs, I was just saying in another video, with the bugs, they're conscious. Like they'll know if you're coming at them or if you're just relaxing. Not just because they sense aggression or things like that. Because they'll calm them, they'll buzz your head. I don't know. In other words, the birds, they'll communicate with you. They give you signals if you start, we have had our education, just like it is manifest the same way everywhere. Like, for example, the differences between the best campus and the worst campuses. It is used effectively in exceptions, like homeschool. It is used effectively to measure and maintain collusions between uses of all positive and negative treatments, like the word the positive adult, the word adult, the value / every word is a value / value progression, where value is nature / nature as value. Boxing, martial arts, and wrestling know how distinct. It is easier to discern how they share an identity, individually grouped and together, because all the sciences share an identity. That's just part of how it shows, and know how this is about fighting, but by the rules. But see, the rules have been criminally foreign influence interpretations of the rules since semi-ancient times. January 6th was effectively and is effectively being used to screen collusions while pretending other, as roles were increasingly connected before leading up to in the World Trade Center attack context in Manhattan and Washington, as the names involved with Connecticut, all sides in criminal and civil cases, and private ones who are involved on off the campuses, our human bodies with our name through our names, and as our names share. Each one incapable of speaking for our names because each one is incapable of speaking for the breaching method because each one had replaced what our founders actually left us to communicate for themselves, not just as Americans. How could we deny? I mean, who would deny that modern countries were all about countering criminal foreign influences? And see, when people get good, and people who don't deny it are blaming others, other things, other themselves, and leaving out what came first. This breaching method distinctly hurts everyone. And it left out how sickly, not distinctly from the discernment of everyone. And it left out how its remote uses of everyone's self-valued roles, where everyone's a fact, cheap nature, knave, K-N-A-V-E-S, knaves, pretending others simultaneously as styles, as criminal insidiousness, styles of criminal insidiousness nature, as names uses, as the human science / S, now tactical ulterior from the one that is hyper-native pure and not criminal insidiousness as positive. Even if we all agree to a plan, every country at the same time, if we're not contemplating to make sure it's not criminal insidiousness plan, we're not going to see the evolution's fruits, gifts, means, how they come from nowhere. The campuses have tactically delusions wrought and tactically criminally foreign influenced roles with the reception of religions, and while pretending they care about them. To keep left out, for example, the sequence shifts, self-value, by people pretending passions and emotions to care for these books, including their own. The Quran and the Old Testament, for example, they were written with consciousness that also the stewards of their locations and of their books would stay self-valued roles syntactically, for example, with the breaching method from some ancient time using sciences being fact, cheap nature, therefore syntax, therefore function, tactical ulterior from when the sciences were not criminally foreign influence. The identity of the hyper-relativity, the hyper-invisible but still discernible. It draws conjunction to all things. It draws conjunction to yin yang. And this is more scientific than the tactical delusions in the theories. See how the theory of, I didn't even know when I never read the theory of relativity. Or what do you know then? Because I'm using the hyper-evidential. That's relativity. The other side, there's the individual group differences, male, female, ages, areas, sexes. Names. And then further, how locations. And then species body. /S. See, the rest of the species bodies are not criminally foreign influenced. And let alone used remotely with the not wanting to be, but increasingly better than perfectly. Exceptions are made. And uses of the difference between their criminal foreign influences, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and who knows each other or not. That's also used because the simultaneous has gotten over on. People need to pretend that the states and that the federal is integrity. As each modern country the reason the people are there's groupthink and crazy violence with groups and things like that is relative to where and to how other is communicated than what is said, and relative to the importance of understanding real fast, real young. Kids instantly want and need to be able to communicate unabridged, let alone adults with tricks, with fake conversations, fake ties, fake nature ties, to planting fake delusions into databases with kids too. And when there can be no proper response. This is remote uses of the campuses of each age and nature. Fire campuses and medical campuses too. The Institute of Living was founded in 1822 on the campus of Harvard Hospital, for example, with slavery still entrenched in North and South America. And with their roles replacing the name of George Washington, for example. I don't know if that who was if that was good or bad. And with Trinity College, where it was first George Washington College, but I know what was bad. For example, how they changed the name of Webb House to now the Webb Stevens. I don't know what they changed it to now. I forgot, but exactly. But it should have been because there was no law. That's one of the important things. Other because slavery was left entrenched. Other is important because our founders had to counter extort the people, the other founders. Right at the last second, they had to counter extort the other founders in Wethersfield, Connecticut, right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War, which was a physical war to begin to try to become a country. And to get free speech to an integrity and sciences to an integrity that would be able to tell about how the economics are being used to force, to measure and maintain, that no one's going to use our nature system, which you asked us to use, how only an individual can defend the finite, and to use how, in other words, please help too. America, any American or any person from China, just one person care. Make sure I get them on paper with the Wethersfield police. And there's nothing personal. I won't let them pretend it's personal. They do that. They also say they use rap sheet. Oh, this person has interactions with the police. They have criminally foreign influence roles with that. Wire crime acts and methods. Wethersfield police with state police, families, FBI. I'm not trying to hurt them. That's why I'm saying it here. If I want to hurt them, it's already recorded. I would just try to do some little trap games that they play with lawyers too on both sides of criminal and civil cases, leading up to the World Trade Center and years after it to hide that. Predicate acts with WFSB, Fox Connecticut News, WTNH. It's nothing personal. Please help you guys. It makes you personal when you guys say nothing and pretend more fake conversations with me. Then change conversations with them because they have wire crimes with the phones too, because everyone's speaking through others. Because all locations, there's like an aside syndrome. I am not a doctor. There are doctors fabricating conversations with kids and their family members through time, increasingly putting little fake roles with criminally foreign influence investigations, investigators in their campuses, their homes, uses of all locations, relative to these answers, where and how, so long. Such fake integrity of scientists got away with pretending passions and emotions. pretending calmness when opposite than shit needs to be. Boxing, martial arts, and wrestling were designed to fight by the rules and to demonstrate how the science is sharing our identity that answers all our questions. It is inseparable from anything, even if it could be made up. It is inseparable from every finite part of it, distinctly from how it is from the group parts and with it together to show us. Because also how the value of itself distinctly as a hyper-simultaneous, distinctly as a simultaneous nature, and distinctly as the slash is value. This is the value of experience. To know the value of the words that already came is here now. So we should not leave out the detail, for example, which is more than just a detail. That and how all modern countries left out with economic treatments, proper uses of words like criminal foreign influences. Our nations have been self-valued roles, backed into self-valued roles, blaming other things, others, ourselves, for things like slavery, for things like that breaching method that divided Native Americans from Native Americans. And you know, thank God, because they didn't get conquered. They saved our species. They did damage control, great damage control, indigenous populations, and they still are doing it because the ground below the suburbs is tactically denatured to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, while the breaching method created more and more the only means to cause positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures, with to be self-value roles, needs, and natures as criminal insidiousness natures of positives. Positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures as timed collusions with the negatives. To maintain self-valued roles with identity theft. Identity is relativity to positive and negative simultaneously. The same way value is. Because what really completes that is that one, that's where functional, how functional, the hyper-invisible but still discernible, that comes with the invisible but still discernible parts of grammar, for example. So the predicate is valued to English the same way the predicate is valued to the law, to discern the invisible but still discernible. Its identity of relationship to itself and the value of that. So we have more than one name for the verb because we need to. We're looking for. We're using how functional the hyper invisible but still discernible is. It is why our languages are the same, are distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneous. Just like the other species are. But then there's that one thing that has them all the same that none of us could be. But we are anyway, because the hyper-simultaneous. There's another identity of simultaneous, per nature, per relativity. And it also works with a special difference. So then we got this clown, Einstein, with a theory of relativity and of special relativity. All this time, black pupils, white survive. Exception, nature. That's all left out. And with the breaching method. And with a special difference. No one brought up a special difference. You know, we have criminally foreign influence readings of statutes recorded subconsciously, involved with the lawyers and foreign nations, involved with our interbranch, overt criminal enterprises, private ones at the same time, and criminal insidiousness of the logic of people A through Z. Forgiveness, for example, per proper interpretations of religion, the beginning of the Old Testament says, only right here where the identity of the sciences share a name, with the names of the sciences will come together. It says the names of the people of the sciences will come together. But they're not going to come together until the names of the sciences are discerned together. And it says only right to there you need to know. Everyone needs to know. In other words, it's not about. They knew it was written. The Old Testament was written knew that people would come with passions and emotions, not with the most knowledge of good and evil. For example, to get over on correlation nature, per roles with use of location /s, per uses of title that never had integrity. Differentially, everyone has integrity naturally. They want to speak for that, leaving out applications by the use of names already. A little kid has means to discern. You use correlation by how sickly, distinctly the Native Americans were hurt by ways that are unnatural. No one wanted it. Sickly. Oh, if no one wanted it, wait, want to be there? Witch trials, crazy laws. Replaced education, tactically denatured below their feet. Why is it relative? The suburbs are tactically denatured. Cause negative values progress. While they're making the criminal and sensitive natures of positive means to cause positive identities of value progression. Oh, that's a job. Yep, it makes you feel good. Constitution is supposed to be gotten unabridged. So a coalition went to war. The World Trade Center was already roles with psychology and uses of medical databases to fabricate audio and video. Also with names with the World Trade Center attack and the investigations of it and their campuses. Hartford Hospital recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. A whole bunch of people roles with a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and Wethersfield Police, with overt criminal enterprises, private one, foreign and domestic military, the same ones, involving wire crimes with them, replacing what's actually recorded over the phones. That's how they're getting away with it. Their roles with uses of Afghanistan leaders and kids. Their roles with a whole bunch of people at Trinity College recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles of predicate acts with names on my street. And I know they were for strict, heard, and persuaded to it. And as the people, as actually recorded, they'll deny, it's an allegation. Put it on paper. It's recorded. They're using the right to lie where they don't have the right to lie. A whole bunch of people on and off campuses I went have roles with predicate acts with fact, little tricks into databases, including with mayors. Increasingly, I caught them also with a principal child abuser. These are foreign and domestic medical families with psychiatry tied to courts, prisons. These are people on off the state corrections offices, on off the state judicial branch offices. Increasingly changing what people say, lying about their descriptions of why they have notions about what we say. Like, oh, we wrote something on Facebook. Get down. Get off Facebook too, Wethersfield Police. Actually, open up their Facebook page. Don't let them block people. They have roles with that too, with their wire crimes with the thing. And we add them to one name. They've been forging names, switching names. So they're part of this game with our names. Oh, America. Is America going to be this? America was never in control of our economics, things like that. And the only way it will come is if we are that nature, and we are that physical body, and we are that identity, and aware that there are three sciences, and as one, and aware that it is also with the value of what is really true before. Now, even if everyone agrees wrong, we have to be a system that is the same contemplation to figure out, are we leaving out the smallest finite detail? See, these are natures of economics, of industry. Positive, negative treatment by the psychopath, calm treatments of words like the delusions or aggressive ones. Relative, where relative, for example, there are proper needs to be able to say calm and to get aggressive, that once defended will go right there, right through that, all the fake. Fake news is real. News predicate acts are real. It is juxtaposed with it where they debate it as collusions because of uses of recorded conscious uses of criminally foreign influence readings of statutes. For example, ones that give the benefit of the doubt as the last second to people based on what degree they have, etc. Also, ones that all readings of statutes, they left out exception nature. They left out how nature itself answers our question. They left out the hyper-simultaneous. Actually, science would have answered the question. But in other words, see how women have a way they could speak better. They have a might that men don't. And exceptions are just as valuable. Exception age. But in other words, this is what this is about. And also, so it has three distinct. The English was revealed to teach about this. Alpha and Omega was revealed to teach about this in ancient times. It is more probable and is more practical and is demonstrable that it is cipher/decipher when Jesus Christ is said to have said that he is the Alpha and he is the Omega. See, there were things we learned from the nature of things like religion, like the law. And there are things that we learn from the physical book. But most people don't know that part where it begins with the identity of the God, parsing what is good from bad, the way a computer does know, as an identity of value/value progression, use/S, no. See, but ways exceedingly limited from those that we are capable of. And with all exceptions, exception nature that appear to be in demonstration of other, really in demonstration of the same thing. It is why it is also relative how the experts of each of the sciences have not admitted where and how the locations of the sciences too. This because of this, these people don't get that blamed other things, others themselves. The suburbs were designed to actually denatured, and that was sustained. Then our founders were born. Slavery was entrenched, torture was entrenched, therefore fact-keeping nature against everyone's slavery and extortions. And then further, employments as economic systems employed for that where and how what everyone was missing was where consciously propagated. So propagated by the breaching method and self-cultivated by everyone at modern countries' names, A through Z. Roles of criminal insidiousness, natures of positive treatments, negative treatments, names treatments. Collusions with a breaching method that would hurt people and facilitate them to unities per its needs. And to effectively against everyone for how it, but made exceptions. And the only way we could overcome that is by having mandated law followed. It has to not leave out how our country's names are haven't been used fake. Integrity. January 6th treatments. They're being used to hide more World Trade Center predicate acts and uses of people. Oh, that's an allegation. They know And they have tactical delusions, not just illusions. And I'm not even a doctor. They have physical delusions, nature delusions, and or metaphysical delusions regarding nature, which is positive and negative relativity, way of referring to an identity as nature. Because identity has relativity, positive and negative simultaneously. And to the quality of diffusion, where Howard is making more of itself, the forever nature. That is one of the things the identity of the hyper-simultaneous is, where and how it makes more of itself. And this is what English was revealed to teach. Also, within as what was revealed as by sophistication, appreciating how the languages are manifest distinctly the same reason we have distinct different color eyes and the same color eyes. So it tells us to explain how it's showing us itself is it's distinct, it's non-distinct, and it's simultaneous identity of relationship to itself. It is also showing its simultaneous relationship to itself. So pantheism was more probably wrought in ancient times, revealed, but by the ancients working together. It was not apart from China. I don't know if the name was around, but the only reason the Republic came from ancient times is because it came from times before the sciences became criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought. And it knew it would have to set up the fake things for itself and to sustain this. Set up all evidence reception, tactically delusions wrought, and uses of it, self-value, like the value of the sequence shifts, self-value. We're denied is the value of where and how the Old Testament says all that needs to be understood is right here. Oh, but I don't follow that part of it. I'm a different religion. I'm a different Bible reading. Okay. But there are other ways too to show. For example, God is a variable. Where and how hyper additional is being made, and where and how it values our contemplation as individuals grouped and together. But these are systems tactical ulterior from its own. So increasingly, those contemplations can't afford their syntactically manifest conjunctions, can't afford to be respected by the self and not say, like, for example, all the evidence is that fake sciences spoke regarding, fake integrity spoke regarding what slavery was about. And then the motivations narrative, because a certain type of victim / hyper victim made to speak about that after having come through the campuses designed since before our founders were born, still with aspects to keep that blame on other things, others themselves, with the breaching method put to measure and maintain from abroad through self-cultivated roles with what it had propagated against everyone's selves to make self-valid roles, to use that and worse remotely, right back at all locations, increasingly incapable of having discerned the short words and revelation. that comes simply from having black pupils and whites of eyes and knowledge of what you really feel. See, but that changes where and how you you guys allow you to not be reported abuses of kids. So you have roles with the FBI with as fake integrity. All exception nature that appear to be in demonstration of other, they're in demonstration of the same thing. With Wethersfield police, recorded, threatened, consciously roles, fabricating audio and video transcripts. They cannot be communicated with. They cannot be trusted. You have to get them on paper, one name in sequence. Have them say, if that was that guy, what's his name? James Comey, not or what's his name? The FBI, the other FBI, the guy they said was the other FBI director. If that was him in the New Britain Superior Court, because also already former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, he's involved with Hartford's courts, people, New Britain Superior Court people, and people with Connecticut District Court, involved with West Hartford locations with predicate acts, New Britain, Hartford, Wethersfield, and names through time. Wethersfield police also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed they have a Scalora family involved with them switching names and with identity thefts and frauds, and roles with child abusers, leaders of the kids, and campus and names next to the campuses. Also involved with fire departments, families, speaking fake things at when other people at the locations around them, so it can make it look like they had a conversation. You should fear God, not you guys, China, America. You know what I mean? Where fear is good. There is one way that emotions are positive, because if one's description of them that is leaving out the value of the smallest finite detail, or the order of the finite, or the value of what came first, one could discern. And if someone's leaving out the value of what is simultaneous. So when someone says, that's your opinion, I believe the scientists have integrity, they can't afford to have, all that, they grouped criminal enterprises wrong, leaving out till that breaching method employed black pupils, whites of eyes, the color mean other than it does. And again, too, sickly distinctly then and still against Native Americans. The suburbs were tactically to nature too, let alone the cities. Let's do some research on what causes the shootings. You guys are communicating other than you say to the kids. You guys are blaming on other things other than yourselves and using all exceptions, self-value to screen why and how that is and where that is and what relevant to what, because it's on off there. It's also vertically and horizontally. It's also distinct uses of confessions from the court. I mean, from the courts, but also from excuse me, Catholicism, for example. In other words, trying to make everyone see not their own, but also the other. The breaching method uses everything. That's even the criminalizations and nature positives. It uses it distinctly. And so, in other words, it has to hide. It had to hide uses of fake integrity and fake motivations for it. Other locations, fake, since founding the prisons, the state offices, the courts, their state offices, the political families, their homes, everyone's homes, everyone next to everyone. We're in a trap. They put, little games. Where and how. Used remote, they're shown simultaneously as formal identities of the law. They're shown simultaneously, preemptively, actively for grouped reasons and for reasons to come. For reasons to come, and for reasons past, rather. They're showing each age of their fact-sheeping nature. At the same time, with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, needs to keep self-valued roles with discorrelation and timed uses of identity theft, fraud, slander uses, where and how little magic tricks are involved, where and how the simple breaching method is only extensive, and as a method /s, again, which propagated self-cultivated roles with itself, specifically to screen itself, and its method, which used and uses remotely all sides in criminal and civil cases, victims and victims advocates, their sources, names of the locations, and names of the courts, sticking sequence shifts and other predicate acts of fake things, switching names and fake things into databases at the same time with the news. And then again, and as one's involved with the World Trade Center attack, as one's further involved with the World Trade Center attack predicate acts while they were forcing a principal child abuser, fabricating audio and video. They have increasingly, now they have Fox News, national, international, even more involved, where they're lying to them, their sources. I never met Brian Foley. He's one of the ones, there were people on Facebook involved with foreign and domestic medical offenders of kids, people involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, attaching kids and their families to fake locations. They put a lot of people in jail with an O'Brien family too. People on and off the state capitol with lobbyists, fake motivation. They're screening their uses of it. And I don't know Chick Casper. He confirms non-verbally. Other people make confessions for him, including people at Hartford Hospital. And I have their put fake conversations with me there. And they do a little trick with the guy who who threatened me, who's one of the ones involved with the Weathersfield police families, and one's in my area, and they're trying to make it look like, oh, you're bringing it up, that's why they're mad. No, they're playing this game. That's why it should go on writing. I asked a judge in Napolitano, also as hyper-evidential, at many times. They have his Facebook page involved with New Britain Superior Courts, also involved, preventing, enforcing child abuses, rape threats, identity theft, fraud. They have more with the police families. They have the judicial families. Increasingly, people on and off Town Line Drive and on and off Elm Streets in Weathersfield and Rocky Hill. You get the Weathersfield into branch onto paper with the New Britain Superior Courts and the Hartford Courts names with their confessions regarding their roles with West Hartford and New Britain locations on off the campuses too, with the leaders of the kids, further with deans. Let's go. On and off Paul Metaphor Drive too. These are CNN sources. Don't pretend that they don't know, because they communicate, they know. They use a girl named Bobby Jean. They use people with investigators, pretending to record things legitimately on off the spots on off Central Connecticut State University. They're fabricating audio and video, other tricks, having people communicate other than they communicated before that. As people increasingly involved with predicate acts with names on my street, as the ones involved with the confessions, even over the phone, of Weathersfield Police. Let's get them with one name in sequence onto paper fast. What's the first name of the Sullivan? Is that a male or female? And let's get the response for what call from the town offices now with the closed name, because they also put their name on here too. Because watch where they use the word maturity. I'm gonna show you something, you little creep bags, interbranch. All exceptions appear to be known. It's not, in other words, the one switching and forging names. I'm forcing you guys to get on paper. It's nothing personal. And I'll forgive you if you made a mistake. Just say who said what. Pick one name. Give me paper. I want a response, because Bob Chase said Phil Cole is one of the ones involved with it, and he put the name Christine. I want the rest of the name, because there's more than one Christine involved with the names involved, and I want a response for why they hid what the principal confessed to me, and why they made up more audio and video fake emails. Get down. Make sure they get that Joshua Schumacher and his neighbors enrolled with the intelligence community with his mother away from the intelligence community now. Make sure they get on paper too with the Wethersfield police. Pick one name and sequence, and the rest of them involved with this Bob Chase and the other police forms. And don't pretend it's personal, punks. Pick one name and sequence. I'll show you what to do too with your kid. With this, what's his name? Chief Cintron. I'll show you what to do with him on off Elm Street. Make sure too he gets on paper too. One name and sequence with his lawyers too, and what he's doing with their with all his nations. Make sure fast.